All right, so guest is going to be joining us. Of course, several days ago, we had this explosion on Monday that really shocked and shook this entire community. A lot of questions surrounding what may have happened, and people are just like, what on earth? So we have Chief Emmanuel Washington Jr., who's joining us from Orlando. He can tell us a little bit about, some of his credentials, but it reads like a who's who of firefighters for sure and fire chiefs around the place. So he is the district chief for the city of Orlando, also known as Manny. And he appeared in Fox competitive reality series MasterChef. What? Sounds like you might have been burning things up in more ways than one. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. That's a little snippet there that I saw about you online that I thought was pretty cool. So district chief for the city of Orlando, tell us exactly what that entails.
All right. So my main job is I'm district chief of the Orlando Fire Department. I'm help run the hazardous materials team. Deal with that. Been on the team now for 14 years now. Been in the department 16 years. We ran to a whole plethora of different chemical response, natural gas, propane releases. Also dealing with, I'm on the Urban Search and Rescue Florida Task Force. So when the hurricanes come, I've been deployed to multiple disasters in Texas, here in Florida, just as recent as Fort Myers and Hurricane Ian. So been there to all those different ones there. So I've gone to a lot of disasters and dealt with the chemical releases and stuff there for those. So I did a lot with those different scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you've been a professional firefighter for how many years?
16 years now.
Wow. So you've seen a lot.
Yeah, seen a lot.
Yeah. How busy is the Orlando, city of Orlando when it comes to fires?
When it comes to fires, overall general, we have about 70 to 80,000 calls overall. Of those, we have about 80% be in medical emergency response, but also too we have about deal with fires about 15% of the time, as well as other hazardous materials releases, general service calls, and whatnot. But just a wide range in the city of Orlando because we also service Universal Studios, also some theme parks down here in Orlando. So we have a wide range of different things we run to in Orlando.
So you've seen a lot in your 16 years, that's for sure.
Yes, definitely seen a lot. Been to a couple of disasters as well as a couple of like Post Nights Club shooting. Been to quite a few things there, so I've seen quite a few things.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this situation, the Cayman Islands. Obviously, you're not physically here on the ground, which should make a huge difference in your ability to make an assessment. Before we get into the details, what is it that when an incident happens, you have some sort of an explosion, what do you guys look at first? I mean, obviously you have hazard management and all these other agencies that must come together, but what's the plan of action? Do you have a pre-written plan that you kind of follow and then you adjust it, tweak it, depending on the specifics of that particular incident?
Yes, so we have SOPs. Everybody has special operating procedures, standard operating procedures, or you may have standard guidelines that you may follow. But for us, if we have like an explosion like that, automatically, we have resources coming in to help respond to that. Usually one of the first things that as we pull up, there's a scene itself, and the first units on the scene is getting assessment is usually they set a isolation perimeter that allow nobody coming into the actual area. Usually you set about like 300 feet at least for explosions, usually sometimes even 1,000 feet wide perimeter before we even let anyone in to assess to see if it's there doing that. Once we do decide to see that we have monitors that monitors for gases, explosive gases, or flammable gases, or different chemicals as well to kind of get an assessment to see what is going on before we come into the scene and go to the actual call of that, so we can make sure we're going in safe. And then once we get there, we assess to see what we're dealing with. And with the hazard materials teams, we specialize in whether it's a natural gas leak, propane, all those different ones releases. We do actually go in and actually mitigate it, whether it's shutting valves off, actually plugging them, patching them, different things there in order to mitigate the risk.
Okay, so you got to have a plan of action before you go in there. Now, this situation, I'm going to try to give you a little bit of background details because I think, as they always say, the devil's in the details. So it's really, really important to probably put in context what you saw in the video footage. So we have a video. I can't actually play it on air because there's a little bit of profanity and stuff in it, where one of the guys was like walking around just as the explosion happened. This was before anybody was on site. So before fire rescue or anybody was there, you see the one guy who I guess is the primary guy who was in the household. And somebody said, listen, no one's going to ever know exactly what happened except for him. Right. So, I'm sure they're getting statements from a lot of people, but he knows exactly what he was doing, what was going on. But it's telling and it's interesting what he says in the very first moments after the incident. So literally he's walking around and I'm going to show you the video. Like I said, I'm not going to play the audio because there is some profanity in the audio, but I want you guys to look at the surrounding area. So give me one quick second. This is a 35. Hold on 1 second. This is a 35-second video here, and then I'm just going to put it in context in terms of what actually is being said minus the expletives. So we have two guys walking. The first guy is saying here, hold on, let me just mute it. The first guy is walking. See all the debris here. The guy there, as you can see, his pants are literally blown off, right? And they both have open-toed shoes. And he says, oh my God, like, are you okay, Bloods? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, I'm okay. I was frying breadfruit. Now, breadfruit, I don't know if you know what breadfruit is.
Yes, I know exactly what breadfruit is, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So he says he was in the kitchen frying breadfruit, right? And the guy said, oh my gosh, are you okay? He says, yeah, I was just frying breadfruit. Now, what we know, looks like one pair of his shoes, as you can see, is actually gone as well. So one foot, he still had the slippers on. The other one's gone. Pants completely blown off, right? What we do know is that, and this is something that I discovered yesterday, and this adds a really, really interesting element because there is this question of, oh, was this a propane explosion? Like, what exactly was this? Well, listen to this, guys. Apparently, he was cooking said breadfruit on a hold on 1 second now. On a 2-burner tabletop electric stove. So he wasn't even using propane to cook his breadfruit. One of the propane tanks, I'm sure you've looked through the videos and you would have seen at the back there is a let me see if I can find this photo. Someone actually did a little photo that I thought was quite interesting, where they showed you the back of the property. There's actually they did a little meme of this propane tank. So here it is. They're saying, look, everybody's quick to blame me, right? And so this is a propane tank. There's a big, I don't know if those are 90, whatever they call 90 pounds or whatever. So that's a pretty big one. And then there was a smaller one right next to it. They seemed untouched out of this entire situation. But that bigger tank, to my understanding, was never even connected. So that couldn't be the source of it if it wasn't connected, right? And then the smaller tank may have been connected. So I think it was a situation where the homeowners were maybe in the process of trying to, put in a bigger, newer tank, but no one had gotten around to actually doing the connection and stuff as yet. So it was literally just sitting there. So what's your assessment when you looked at the video footage of what happened, the aftermath, I should say? Lots of damage, obviously, to surrounding homes and properties. But what do you think might have happened here?
So based on what I was looking at it. When I looked at it, the first thing is I looked at the scene photos, and those photos eerily look so similar. I wish I could share with you some natural gas explosions. It looks exactly the same. Those overhead shots you sent me. I wish I could share these photos.
I think you can do share screen, and you might be able to pull in images and stuff as well.
Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Window. Okay,
oh yeah, so you should be able to share that with us.
And what I do is that I just literally, this is just looking through, and even when we respond to it, it looks exactly. I don't know. Can you see my screen? Does it show you? Is you showing it?
Yeah, I'm seeing that photo there.
This is saying, like I say, I saw your photo. You sent me the email. I seen that photo. And if you look at that photo compared to that, I mean, it looks exactly like the same exact dispersion of material and everything. Looks exactly the same. When I'm looking at that and I look at your photo and look at that, I'm like, it looks exactly like a natural gas or some sort of propane explosion, like for that stuff there.
Right.
Like you said, when he was doing this, let me see, make sure you do it. Yeah. So when he was doing it, that's when I saw it, like, oh, that's definitely some sort of explosion. Now, what can cause it? It could be a couple things there. The thing with, like I said, with propane, I don't know, the properties of it is that when it's released, it doesn't go in the air. It literally stays low and just hangs around in the area until it finds an ignition source. Now, that ignition source can be within the house, but also too around outside. Even if it can go like somebody driving by the house can cause to set up that whole explosion to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be inside the house to be the culprit. I've seen things where we have different scenarios that when we had a house that had a leak, but it was literally almost about like 2-3 houses away that actually found the ignition source and caused a ripple effect down for that. So as I say, I'm not necessarily worried about if it's in the house or not, but based on what I've seen in just that picture, that overhead picture, and when people walking and stuff there, it's definitely some sort of rapid release of some sort of material, whether it's propane. I don't know if you have natural gas over there, but it was definitely like, I looked at the photos, that's definitely like some sort of explosion. What can cause that is different things there. He could be, like I said, like, I've heard many things there of people making their homemade contraptions, different things there, doing stuff in the garage and stuff there, and then now causing that to happen there. Yeah. So when you see those these pictures here, just is that you see that. I don't know if you look at the just the structure of it. If you look at the structure of it, just you see where the wood is. That usually when an outward forces pushes it out, you can see that like it pushed it out, and then now it's coming, it kind of sags back down. You can see that all the stuff's been lifted up, some sort of thing that lifted it up. So there's definitely some master or something that caused that with this. That's what's definitely just jumping out at me when I see these photos.
Right. So there's so many theories floating around. Obviously, the investigators here have not completed their investigation as yet. And I'm going to show you some other photos of the property that may or may not assist. So this is sort of the washer and dryer area. We see things like paints and stuff here. I don't know if one of these might have been a gas dryer. Somebody suggested that it may have been. Tell us about, like, you see this utility room, right, where you've got your washer and dryer. Say one of these is a gas appliance. What sort of things should you try not to keep around, your gas tank or your gas appliances, or, safety wise, what should people be thinking about?
Yeah. So one of the things you want to do is that, especially when you have gas appliances, that it's definitely not have things around that. Also, what is called a catalytic, or it can kind of be like a synergistic effect. So those paint cans or different things are also petroleum-based products. So those actually, so once they catch on fire, it usually makes the fire bigger, much hotter. So usually try not to have other flammable materials around your gas stove or your actual utility closet here. Also, too, having large products overhead can become a big fall hazard because if this does explode, one of the things you worry about is not necessarily it's the pressure of the explosion, but then now the shrapnel that comes along with it after the fact. And all these different things you see here are potential shrapnel and potential things that can cause even more damage just from just sheer shrapnel just going from the force of those different pictures you see there. So once the explosion happens, all these things now become projectiles. So those are another thing there. Be careful of having projectiles around your area there. Make sure it's clear. Anything, all these heavy products above are usually a no-no for you. We need to have these at the ground level or also in another utility closet somewhere far away from other things that become flammable.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that given the amount of damage that this property sustained, that no one was, killed. I mean, do you often see people walking away from this type of a situation? I mean, we think it's a bit of a miracle, really.
Yes and no. So recently, just as recently, it's probably like 3-6 months. Well, about 4. Well, I think it was last year. So take almost 6 months ago. 7 months ago. In December, up in New Jersey, firefighters actually. This one was that he had a natural gas there, but also too, it went into the attics, the basement of it, and actual firefighters had monitors. They walked in and those that monitor. And literally, as soon as they walked down the bottom stairs, their monitor started going off, and as soon as they were trying to get out, it actually exploded. Had a gas explosion, flash fire, and all of them survived. But thank God they had their protective gear on, so they were able to survive it. But I've seen many times that people do not survive this. Recently, 2 years ago, firefighters killed from simply just a natural gas release, and then now they had an explosion and did not survive it. So he is very lucky. Most of the time, it's just depending on where he was at, and sometimes, like for him, like you said, it may not he may not have been where the actual source was, but he definitely was in the area we call it the zone, reference to the explosive zone, to do it. So wherever they found that source at, it found the ignition source. It came all the way back to where it's them. So he just got the brunt of that force coming back to him. So that's why he survived there and was lucky, because if he was directly at where the source was, he probably would have been saying a different tune there. So like I said, it's most of the time it's no telling where. Sometimes people get lucky, some people not so lucky there. And like I said, he may have some, he definitely has some burns there.
Right.
I'm looking at it right on his let's say left shoulder there. He's definitely going to have some second degree burns there from the stuff there. He's definitely lucky from that. So wherever it is that he was definitely, whether he was cooking or something like that, because one thing it says they see where majority of his burns are, like it says around his arms here. So
and looks like his feet, yeah.
So like I said, if it's propane stuff, usually it stays low to the ground and comes. So it definitely could have went up, and like I said, went up to where he was cooking at, or where stuff here, because his greasy stuff that he had. Say he was frying breadfruit, that greasy stuff could have caught on fire as well, and then splash onto him to his arms there. So that's definitely a telltale sign of, like, I can look at him saying where this grocery source came to his feet and came up and went into that breadfruit there. So could have been potentially doing that stuff there.
Pretty crazy. All right, folks, we've got some people obviously watching, lots of people watching this morning. Romelia says, this is so true. They needs to know we care about, I think that's another topic. All right. Johan says, another reason that Don Marlin and I do not cook. So he's looking for an excuse not to cook. So Damien saying, is it odorless? So would there have been any signs at all? Say it was propane, right? Would there have been any signs at all that something was amiss?
Okay. So most of the time, actual propane and even natural gas, all of them actually have no odor. They're odorless gases. What we do is to add to them, to kind of add a safety for, we add mercaptan to it. Mercaptan gives you that smell of almost like rotten eggs odor to it. It's very, very potent that they add a little bit of this to the propane. So that now when you have a release, you don't actually smell the propane or natural gas. You actually smell the mercaptan, which is a safety feature of it to be safe. And now you know it. Now, the downside is that if it's sometimes we have run lines under the house or run lines underground, is that sometimes that if you have a release underground, the soil actually sometimes pulls the mercaptan off of the gas, and then now you may have it now where it's odorless, and you may not even know it's actually leaking. So you have to also be aware of that stuff. Naturally, propane and natural gas are odorless by themselves. They usually add mercaptan to it to make that smell. You kind of have that kind of egg odor, rotten eggs odor smell, to kind of know that, ooh, there's something leaking in here for that stuff there. But it can be good. That's a safety feature there. So, and it has happened where it's been filtered out by the ground, and now it's released, and you don't even know it's being released.
And is it important? I mean, I have propane, right, in my home. And so one of the things I also have are some of the monitors that tell me if there is any sort of propane, I guess, in the air or whatever, right? So how important are those types of monitoring devices to have? Even carbon monoxide, smoke detectors, in your line of work, over 16 years of doing this, do those devices save lives?
Yes, so that's one of the great things that we should be more proactive with, is that if we know we're going to have a certain device or certain things, that we need to have the monitors that go along with it. Yes, some costs are associated with it, but you can't put a price on your life with that. Like I say, usually with like in my house, I have a CO monitor. You have your smoke alarms, and usually, like I say, depending on where you're at, like a propane stuff, there's called like a little combustion meter, which measures for the gases for the stuff there around those areas. Because, like I say, I've seen many times we have calls of people that they were able to get their whole family out because they had the smoke alarms that go off or carbon monoxide goes off for that. And then sometimes you have where people just come and have no monitors and they just say they're having really, really bad headaches or, unfortunately I've seen people lost their lives because they don't have no monitoring there, or they forget to replace the batteries for the monitor, doing it every, time change or, every, at least once a year to do that, because they're now simply a preventable thing, just having those things there. And it's very paramount to us and saves a lot of lives and makes, even if it does happen, it minimizes the damage because you're able to catch it at such a low level.
Absolutely. So Cara confirms that Home Gas told her that they actually put something in their propane so that if there is a leak, people are going to be able to smell it. Otherwise, it's odorless. Paul, the firefighter in Bermuda, confirms that, yes, good morning. Propane is heavier than air and it is odorless in its natural state. So it's mixed with a chemical called, that's the same one that you mentioned?
Yep, mercaptan,
Mercaptan, to give it its smell. So confirming everything that the good fire chief is saying here today. So that's automatically added. And listen, Home Gas has been in business for over 35 years. They have an extraordinary safety record. So, I'm sure that they're doing everything that is good practice. So Vicky has a question. A lot of people are saying this on yesterday's show, that they assume that if it was related to propane, there would have been some sort of a fire associated with it, but there was no fire. So explain to us the logistics of boom, no fire. It's just an explosion.
So which is natural. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, because what happens is when you have the propane comes out, sometimes, if you put a light right at the orifice of propane, it won't necessarily go off immediately. What happens is you have to have a right concentration of it. It has to be not too much of it. It can't be too lean. So what happens is that when you start that release and when it catches on fire, what happens is that it literally burns all up at once and then it's done. It's called more of like a flash. You call it a flash fire, where it just literally just catches off. The explosion happens. All of the gas is consumed, and then it is gone. That's why it was no fire, because all of it was consumed at that actual. Once that explosion happened, it was all gone for that. So that's why usually you'll see fire with that. Sometimes you may have a fire that it may have the explosion, and then now other things may catch on fire. Couches, other things, other flammable things may catch on fire when that happens, and then that's when you may have a fire after. But the actual propane was consumed in that explosion, so that's why you don't have nothing after.
Very interesting. All right. Some good questions here. 936-2626 is the telephone number. I should tell you all that the connection keeps dropping, so I'm kind of thinking it's actually not on my end at this point, but we'll just keep reconnecting every time I notice it. So Charles says gas detectors. Another person on WhatsApp says all homes and businesses should be required to have a gas leak detector. Absolutely. This is good common sense, folks. I mean, we have multiple ones in our household, right by the, one by the gas dryer, one by the gas stove, the gas dryer and the tankless heater in close proximity. So this is just good advice. Carbon monoxide detectors and stuff as well. I think that Home Gas has them for sale. You can also get them from, I'm sure A.L. Thompson's must have them. And of course, if you're overseas, just pick one up. They're relatively cheap at any of the home goods stores, Home Depot and, Lowe's and whatever, those types of stores. Even I'm sure Walmart, come on now. I'm sure even Walmart has them. So get yourself a gas detector. These things, as the good chief just said, definitely save lives. And they're easy. They're just plug in to the wall. And, here's one right now. I'm just looking at Amazon. Propane detectors, $24.99. It's not going to break the bank, but it's definitely going to be worth it. They've got different brands and different options. This one I have here, it's an AC plug-in with a battery backup. Ooh. So if something happens, you got your battery backup. If the power goes out or whatever, you still have, and that one's only $41. So get yourself one. I'll share the link for this one in the chat section there. If you use propane, again, really safe. How safe is propane in your experience?
Propane is very safe. When used, like I said, it's a great. We use propane for my heaters. We use it for cooking. It's great. It's a stable fuel. It burns clean with that, so it's a great. But like anything, if you don't take care of it or properly maintain it, it's going to give you problems.
All right. So, a listener to the program says, I'm watching from Orlando. Hey.
Oh, what's up, man?
Yeah, right. Caymanians all over. As a Caymanian over here, I'm glad to know that they're knowledgeable firefighters like the guest today. Well, he's actually in Orlando. It's so funny that you mentioned you're from Orlando. He is, Emmanuel Washington, is the district chief for the city of Orlando. So it looks like you missed that part, but it's so ironic. There you go. It's a listener in your area. So he's actually not here in the Cayman Islands. We brought him on the program because sometimes logistically it's a little bit more difficult to get some of the local experts on. They're out there busy, I guess, with this current investigation. And I find that, quite honestly, Neith, they're just not as willing to speak on these things immediately or right away. 6-7 months later, we're still waiting on a report, right? So, in this program, hey, we get on it while it's topical. So she has a question about where Home Gas is still located. Yes, they are still on Walker's Road. They've not moved. They are upgrading their facility and building a state-of-the-art upgrade. And I'm sure at some point, John and those guys will come on the show and tell us a little bit more about that. They're putting things in place that means that the facility, the plant location, is going to be that much safer. But I'll leave those details to when they're actually on the program, because they can tell you all the logistics of exactly what they have in place. So Gareth, good morning. Ramilia says, how was there no fire? And he stated that he was cooking breadfruit. So to be clear, he was cooking on a electric 2-burner, like I guess those little portable or tabletop electric burner stoves. But I think the fire chief has just explained that, a lot of times there might be no fire. So that's not necessarily a hard and fast rule about the cause of it. Yeah. So good morning to Maureen. She says this is really good information and she's going to share this. Thank you so much, Miss Maureen. Amori says, with the pressure that blew out neighbors' windows and lights, how didn't the man inside the house sustain any more injuries than the burns that he had? I mean, it is quite shocking that he was not any more injured than that. But so what we're looking at, Mr. Emmanuel, is adjoining homes like that street and even the street over and across the street had blown out windows. Doors were cracked and blown out. One neighbor who was sort of back onto this house had their front porch, which was on the other street, the sheetrock on that, or the cement board really, dropping in on the porch. I mean, the damage for the surrounding properties, I thought, was really quite something to see as well.
Yeah. So when I noticed that, I don't know if you get a chance to, I would try to find some more videos there, but I've seen plenty of videos of people at this that just happened working there around it become usually unscathed. You'll see the pressure blow out, but because they're so close to the actual source, sometimes they'll blow out and they just run away and don't even realize what happened. It happened so quick that the flash happened, but then it's an outward force. So as an outward force, so you'll see usually from where the source is an outward force. As that force goes out, initially it's not as potent, but as it goes out further and further, literally gets bigger. And like I said, you start seeing homes get knocked over, structures being affected, but people usually closer to the source usually don't see as much interest. We're actually outside of it. You see like the windows and everything outside of it. It's actually pretty odd with that, but it's just because of the physics of how it works with the explosion, just depending where the source came from to where it actually from where it lit off at to the actual source of where it came from, it actually caused that. So it just really did it. Like you see tons of explosions with people working in the stoves, whatever, and literally you'll see them unscathed. Like they'll have the flash, so you see them get them burns from the flashing, but you won't even see it actually have more injuries. Besides that, usually you're pretty lucky most of the
time. So unfortunately, for our radio listeners, I think that he's going to have to pull us off because it's just painful. I'm having to constantly monitor that feed and reconnect. So I think Chuck is going to go ahead and just pull us and put on Al Jazeera News. But we're here in social, log on. I'm sure we're much more interesting than the social connection than Al Jazeera News. But the radio connection is just really problematic today. So Everton says most CO2 detectors, they come with a 10-year that you don't have to replace the battery. It lasts for 10 years, and then add it's no good. So you don't have to keep replacing the battery every year. So that's good. And I mean, read your products when you buy them, right? So KK says this is sort of an interesting tidbit. So, Chief Emmanuel, sometimes people are looking for another story. So people have said, was he cooking something else that might not have been illegal? The rumors around, was he making a bomb and that went wrong? What was going on here? It's ironic that the house was just put up for sale a week ago, that the house was subject to a planning enforcement order. So technically it can't be sold if there's a planning enforcement order attached to the house, because they had built on this addition to the house and didn't get planning approval. So now they have to go back and retro, try to, in hindsight, get planning to approve it. They've got to pay all sorts of fines and fees and whatever. So people are thinking there's a little bit of messiness around the house in terms of like the ownership and that whole situation. Maybe there was a desire to, somebody I think would be stupid though to do this, but maybe there was a desire to create a situation where an insurance claim could be submitted. What do you think of those theories? Do they seem plausible? Do you think somebody was trying to build something or cook something?
Now, I have no idea what this is here, but from my experience, I have ran on calls. It had the similar things that I can show you that we've had videos of. We have ring video footage of a guy in his garage doing some things, whatever, a clandestine lab. We call it a clandestine lab, whether it's bomb making, we call it, whether it's clandestine drugs, different things like that. And the physical process of making these different chemicals there. Sometimes there have been explosions that happen to those kind of flash fires with that. And it literally is just the same. You see person have some burns here and there. Usually a concussive wave that goes out, causes damage to the neighboring houses, whatever. And most of the time, that's how we get the calls to find out from neighbors that, hey, this went off, and you have those things here. But those hell happened before. Usually, like I said, they go through it. Usually they're going through the scene, have to figure all those different things out. But like I said, I don't put it past anyone. Like I say, you just tell what it is. I know some sort of explosion happened, or some sort of flammable atmosphere that caused that explosion. What can cause that? It could be propane, it could be natural gas. It can be from making explosives. It could be made from clandestine labs. It can be a plethora of things can cause that to happen. So, like I said, I'm not ruling that, but it can't happen. There's a possibility for that. I'm not saying it happened, but there's a possibility for that. And I've seen it happen before.
And how do you determine when you go into an investigation whether it's a natural gas explosion or if somebody was cooking something, or especially if they're not necessarily going to tell you, if they were cooking something, they're probably not going to confess to that. They'll say, yeah, I was just cooking breadfruit, But how do you know if it's something more? What are some of the telltale signs that you might be looking for?
Usually, most of the time, with us, Orlando Fire Department here, we also have a bomb squad. So we work with bomb technicians there. We're not necessarily trained on that. We kind of looked at some certain things here, but the bomb technicians are the experts that do that with that. But the biggest thing, like you said, when we come on scene there, we're looking for different types of like glassware, different chemicals there. We're looking for different chemicals there, whether it's, some household products, some other ones that they're using for to make explosives. We're looking at different things there around it. Now that an explosion happened, a lot of stuff has been scattered, so you can't necessarily see where everything is. And that's where the more investigative, the police comes in, and more of our bomb squads are cops as well. So they'll come in and kind of do the investigative mode of kind of looking and describing and looking for certain things that would tell. The first thing they're gonna look for is where the source of it, where did the explosion start from to leave out. And then once they go there and find that source, they start from there, kind of working their way around it to kind of see what caused it. So that's probably the first thing I do when I'm working with bomb techs, is that they look at the source and saying, where did it come from? Where did the start point happen? And once they find that start point, they'll start kind of like making circles around it to kind of like work their way out to see if there's anything that can cause that to come there. So it's kind of just working reverse from there. So usually that's what you start looking for, whether it's different types of whatever the source is. The sources, and I'll tell you what kind of things you need to be honing in on that, honing it in.
Right. And of course, that's why it's important to cordon off the area as well. and to
Correct.
secure it. So I was a little bit surprised to hear that there was a possibility of some of the debris having been moved and stuff. Um,
Mm.
so, in my mind, this is a question that I have for the local authorities. Can I need some clarification on this? Does that mean that overnight there was nobody at the location, like a police officer,
Mm.
making sure that no one went in the general vicinity? So that's a little bit weird to me. So I'm
Yeah,
just trying to get some clarification on that, because you think securing the scene until the investigation is completed means that you secure the scene 24/7.
correct.
All right, we've got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning.
Morning.
Regarding the questions that have to do with why there wasn't any fire as a result of whatever actually occurred, does that cause you to think that this is more along the lines of a supersonic event or a subsonic event?
Hmm. Did you hear that caller? Sorry.
It's a supersonic event. You talking about
Or
like sound like
subsonic.
Yeah, either a subsonic or supersonic event.
So
That
he's saying, do you
occurred.
think it's a subsonic or supersonic event?
yeah. So you talk about so when that flash happens, it's literally like a. It's really like a well technically it's more of an explosion, but it's almost yes. So when that rush of so whatever the source is goes and catches on fire, all of that product that's sitting around here, it just rapidly goes up in a change of pressure. So technically, I mean, when you talk about supersonic, just in reference to the speed in which it happens, it is almost at it's a speed in reference to how fast it catches on fire. Depending on how much was there, it's relatively quick and almost could be fast as a supersonic, like a supersonic kind of like wind explosion kind of like stuff. I know what you're trying to say like that in that same exact way. But it can happen similar to that. I'm not necessarily is a subsonic kind of event, but it's similar to that where you see that it's. I can find some videos of just the rush from that source to there. It is so rapid, so fast. Within less than a second, you see it go from here. It catches all of it on fire, and it almost similar relates to like almost like a subsonic event, like this that rush of air going from one point to the other one. But it's a flame that just goes and catches on fire and causes that explosion.
So if it was a subsonic event, would you expect to see fire in more risk of a fire, or just trying to think about what the possibilities might be?
It could be fire. Like I said, sometimes I can tell you if the way it was is that if it's only a certain amount and that initial explosion catches all of it, it may not be no fire. Or what happens is that certain other things that may catch on fire from that, and then you have a residual fire after it. Other sources, because that may not like we have multiple places that have gas, like the stove, the dryer, other places that then you may have other things may cause to have a fire as well. So it just depends on what other things. If what was inside the house is on fire, if you have a lot of just wood products or anything that can catch on fire, that will cause it. But some things were not on fire. Some things more exploded, like I said, went into the air and moved that product. That pressure wave could have killed most of those fires. Well, when you have that pressure wave that goes from the explosion, could also from the air also just necessarily cause to hash out any fires that were if there were fires. So it's kind of like it's depending on what happens there. Certain factors cause into it. Sometimes I've been to calls where there's no fire, literally just an explosion. And I've been to where they had an explosion and there's still stuff catching on fire. So it just depends.
Okay.
All right, caller.
All right,
Thanks
thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it. So Charles says, Sandy, when home gas was put there, storage tanks in the present location, it was a wilderness. The government put the schools close to the storage tanks afterwards. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Everton says, and people do not smoke around gas stations. When you're pumping gas, do not use your phone. When you're pumping gas, it's very dangerous. I see a lot of people using their phone, and I just walk away. So, is this still something that's a concern? Like when you go to the gas station, smoking and using your phone is still a concern?
Yes, very much so. I wish I could show. I could show you videos we always show in class and stuff. To kind of to push that is that we take a picture of called a thermal imager that shows the heat wave of it. But literally, you see somebody pumping gas, and you see the off gassing of the gas that goes around. Literally, it surrounds the whole car. The vapors from it, you can't see it by the naked eye, but it used to put a thermal camera on. You see the vapors going all around the car, even though the person's pumping gas in, and you see how easily somebody lighting a cigarette in the front of the car or the back of the car, how easy it is for it to catch on fire there. So those things you always see there, definitely a concern. Even that, and also too, when you do homes and stuff there, the static electricity from those different things there can definitely cause those things there.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm gonna see if I can find that. I mean, is there any difference if it's an old phone versus a modern phone? Does any
No, so
matter?
no, it doesn't matter. The biggest thing is that you don't realize that when you make that call, whatever, the static electricity that it causes from that little thing there, the electricity it gives off is enough. Even just you don't realize it. Flipping lights, when you flip a light on and off, that amount of energy in that actual light there can cause fires in there. It's over like 800 joules of energy, and like I said, in order to cause a fire, you only need like 10 joules of energy. And just that little flick of the light there, and that little, usually it's like a little electric, that little on and off with there, causes enough to cause a flicker and cause the stuff there. So it's one of those things there that you can definitely. Let me see. I found the video. Let me show you if you found the video. I'll share this with you if I can.
Yeah, there's a private chat area there if you want me to pull it in, or if you can pull it up. Either way is fine.
Let me share the screen here. Let me see.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So there's somebody pumping gas here. If I can just, if it can play, give me a second. It's taking a sweet time.
That's okay. So this is very, very interesting. Wow. Huh.
There we go. If you see it right here, look, see the price pumping, and this is a fair camera. So that's what he said. Don't what you call about it, because literally, as you can see it, that little gas you see right, that's from the gas that's pumping itself. And like I said, people do this all the time, depending on where the wind blows and stuff. There, it could be the front of the car, the back of the car. You don't realize you just kind of smell the gas, and they say that's why they say, hey, make sure you don't do that. So that's one of the things I always tell people: is oh yeah, we, whatever. Definitely.
Right. Huh. Do you have to be on the phone? So obviously, if you have the phone in the car or on your person, you're pumping gas. Is that safe?
Usually one of the things is that usually when you're on the phone, technically you're not supposed to have it. You're not supposed to have it on. What happens is that it emits energy. Anytime you receive a text message and that ringtone, or those different vibration stuff, that gives off energy from it. So that's one of the things that you tell the stuff here that gives off the little static. It gives off a little electrical energy for it. So that's why you say you just need to be careful with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Huh. All right, folks. Yeah, gotta be careful. Pretty crazy. All right, let's see if we have any other questions or comments this morning. So good morning to Perla. Lavana says, I see the pump attendants using their phones while pumping customers' gas here, because in this country, we actually have pump attendants that pump it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So she says that she's seen the pump attendants do that. They should know better, I guess. But
fortunately, what happens is that it's called normalization of deviance. Most of the time, what happens is that when you do something wrong, most of the time, what happens? Nothing. So what happens is that
you think you're
called normalization of deviance. Oh, I'm just going to do it all the time, and until you was and all of a sudden, boom, an explosion happens or something happens. They're like, oh, excess whatever here. It's as well, but you just kind of always did that, and nothing ever happened. And just this one time, you get that perfect mixture, and you pick up the phone at the right distance. You have that different stack of electricity, and then boom, it causes it. So like I said, it's only a matter of time. It's a matter of
look at that one. That's crazy. Yeah. You got to be careful, folks. So yeah, Murphy's Law, just because it doesn't happen 90% of the time doesn't mean that there's not that 10% that you should be concerned about, even a 5%. So Damien says, so where is the actual propane tank? Did that explode also? So we saw propane tanks that appeared to have been in perfect tack at the location. I don't know if that was all of them, because it does look like this was a tenement yard. So they were like renting out different portions of the house. So I don't know how many kitchens they had, and so on. And of course, again, this is why, you've got to be so incredibly careful when you're talking about the necessity to get planning approval and follow building codes and stuff like that. You don't get planning approval for stuff. We don't know what was going on with electric connections in the house or anything else. If you get planning approval and they actually have inspectors come in and make sure that everything's safe, that is certainly the way to go. When you're not doing that, there's always that 5% chance, that something might not be connected properly or might not be working in an optimal way. And of course, once that happens, what are you going to do? So we don't know, Damien, exactly how many different areas they had for cooking, how many different propane tanks. We saw 2 there that were perfectly intact. We know the bigger one wasn't attached. And maybe that's a good thing. Can a propane tank that's not even connected cause a problem? Would that have been a likely source?
Depends on a couple of things here. I've read on calls where a house fire started and then now flame impinged on a one that wasn't necessarily involved. And when it flame impinged on it, it caused it to degrade and now it starts to have a small leak on it. Mm-hmm. As that, if it's just sitting there by itself, most of the time they're pretty good. They're pretty sturdy structures that you're not necessarily going to have any problems with it. But it just depends on what was happening there. What else is there? It just depends on that. I haven't, if it's not being messed with, sometimes those things are pretty certain when it causes problems. But I have seen that the reason why they disconnected it because it's had a small leak and they just haven't dealt with it. And then now it actually causes another problem with that. So I have seen all the ones there. It just depends on if they've been, negligent with that or not. But you have to just go and see it actually with that. But it seems like you said the picture looked totally fine, like it had no problems with it as well. Because you would know it'll have some problem. Like you'll see a tinge or the heat, you'll see some flaking or you'll see some sort of heat impingement on it, different things like that. They kind of tell you that it's been involved with it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So very, very interesting. So somebody else said that's too bad that people still don't understand that about the gas station. The amount of people I see using their phones at the gas station, worse, the gas attendants themselves actually using it. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Does it matter? Do you have any protection if you're inside the car? And somebody's pumping it for you, or should you just not use it at all? Don't tempt fate.
You're fine inside the car. That's what they say. Don't come in. You're fine if you're in the car. That's what they say. Don't go in and out of the car. Once you're out of the car, stay in the car. What happens? They're going back and forth, creates a side electricity. Going back and forth. Because you're grounded inside. But if you come out, going back and forth, that's that electricity. So that's where you get problems at.
Okay. All right. Very good. Damien is talking about lithium batteries.
Ooh, yeah. That's
used in many projects such as electronics and toys, wireless headphones, handheld power tools, and so on. Perla says some just don't follow the rules for their own safety, and others, they are also supposed to do it. So yeah, just about, being considerate, really. Static electricity being dangerous, says Everton. Good morning to Melissa. Miss Sue is here joining us. Good morning to Miss Sue. Perla says, I think that all gas stations should make those signs bigger. Some people probably don't even know. I can't even recall having seen a sign now that I'm thinking about it. Have there been any signs lately? I mean,
small signs right there on the actual pump itself, whatever, like small signs on the little thing in the corner.
Everton says you must also turn your motor vehicle off, which is common sense. You can pump gas without turning it off. I didn't even think you could do that, but maybe. Because they tell you what, Chief, these new electric vehicles, they're so quiet that sometimes I have one, and when it goes into EV mode, like I literally can't hear it. I've walked away before and left it running. And didn't remember 3 hours later. I'm like, oh my God, the car's been on for 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet. Like I literally went to a shopping plaza, an area here called Cayman Bay, got out of the car, walked away from it, had the keys on me, but still walked away, left it, came back 3 hours later, it was dark out. I'm walking towards my car thinking, oh, somebody left their lights on. Come to find out, it was my car.
Oh my gosh.
Just left it running for 3 hours.
Wow.
Denny, good morning. You have another comment or question?
Yeah, in relation, along the same lines as cell phones at gas stations, what's the risk with electric cars at gas stations?
Well, the biggest hazard, not necessarily, we're not worried about with electric cars. We're not worried about them like to causing a fire from like the gas, whatever. What we're worried about now is just with lithium ion batteries. These things here, they have what's called runaway reactions. That when they get, the problem is that they get damaged. They work great when they're not damaged. But the things that when they get damaged, that's when you have the runaway reactions. You have seen a lot of causes of fire. We've seen a lot of that during Hurricane Ian, when we had a lot of those electric cars got flooded out, and the salt ate away at the protective parts of it, and now you had the lithium ion batteries catching on fire left and right. For that was a huge problem that we dealt with after the hurricane, and those cars getting flooded stuff there. Necessarily at a gas station, not necessarily a problem with the neighbors. They're fine because they're usually internal with that. But the problem is we run into is that when they get damaged inside the lithium ions, you see a lot of times a lot of fire department. FDNY is dealing a lot with it. A lot of places are dealing with people having those scooters, and they overcharge them, and then now they're causing fires there.
Yeah. Oh, the little electric scooters as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
What about the fact that our island is at the widest point? It's 8 miles. The longest for Grand Cayman is 24 miles. There's no such thing as being away from salt air. Does that pose any risk to electric cars in terms of deterioration that might cause you to have to worry about whether things will erode and get exposed sooner than it would in where you're much farther away from the ocean?
No, that wasn't the problem. Like I said, we ran into the problem is that when they're normal, because they had these cars on the beach, and it's fine on the beach there. The problem is that once these cars got flooded or the salt water got into the chicken, if you just get if that salt water gets into the actual gas, the actual battery system and damages it, then that's where we ran into a lot of problems with that. But overall, just naturally, just going the road, no, they're fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. 936-2626. We're going to start to wrap things up a little bit here with her guests. So apparently the only connected tank to the house was the 100-pound cylinder. The 420-pound cylinder and 20-pound cylinder were off and not in use. All the cylinders had no issues and still contained propane.
So yeah, that wasn't the source.
So that wasn't the source.
And most likely doesn't sound like the source. But like I said, he's frying breadfruit. It could be a lot of things he'd be frying. I don't know. So
Yeah. Well, you see, this is where those details are important, right? Because when you add in knowing that, hey, not only were the propane tanks outwardly fine, but they've actually now confirmed that the contents on the inside of the propane, the gas was still there. They weren't even connected except for one. It kind of makes you go, there's a possibility that something else is going on here for sure. So yeah, what can I say? I'm no expert. Max is a little bit off topic here today. That's nowhere near the discussion that we're having. Paul says it's called thermal runaway. Once the batteries catch on fire, it's difficult to extinguish. So again, fireman Paul in the house as well. Thank you so much for adding your expertise to the show. So super interesting. Chief Emmanuel, anything else you want to share with us? We're so tickled pink to have you on the program this morning.
No, just thank you for having me. Appreciate it. All those good things there. And if you ever want to talk about food, let me know.
I know.
You can give me also, like I said, I did a competitive cooking day, so at Chef Manny FD on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Do a lot of cooking and all that fun stuff at the firehouse. So that's all the fun things I love to do.
Wow. So let's talk about your food a little bit, because I'm actually a foodie. So I'm interested in how you got into, you were top chef there. How did you get into a show like Master Chef? How did you do that?
So it started off as a joke. The first show I did was Cutthroat Kitchen, and that started all off as a joke. My friend signed me up for that show. Food Network called me, and I actually thought it was a prank. When lady called me, saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, we want you on the Food Network. Want you to be doing a firefighter edition of a show, so we want to actually do that." But I thought it was a joke, but actually it wasn't. And I did
You
that show, and ever since then I've been
season 6 MasterChef.
So I did season 7 of MasterChef. Oh, I did Cutthroat Kitchen first, and then season
Uh-huh.
7 of this show of MasterChef, and
Mhm.
then I finished up and did Food Network Star after that with Bobby Flay and Jack De Laurentiis season 14 of that. I finished second on that show there, so I did a couple of things there.
Okay.
So doing stuff there. So I just do that and do a little cooking on the for fun and all that stuff there, and do real private chefing as well and stuff there, but still do competitive cooking around everywhere.
Wow. So you grew up in a household where everybody was cooking and you just fell in
Yes.
love with it. And what's your favorite? What's your like go-to dish?
My go-to dish is my chimichurri skirt steak with cilantro lime rice, some black beans. Then I usually do some caramelized plantains.
Some caramelized plantains. Is that
Mm-hmm.
dessert or that's just a side
This
dish?
is this is side of it, but yeah, I usually do some plantains. I usually do a little, and I coat them with a little brown sugar, so they can get a nice little coat on. It's really good, nice and little crunchy,
Okay.
little salted
I,
inside.
I love me plantain. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
That's like you give me plantain for lunch, breakfast, dinner, snacks. I'll eat them any time of the day. So we got a couple pictures there that we're going to show of the chief. Look at this. So this is when you were on Gordon.
MasterChef.
That's
Yeah,
Master Chef.
Gordon Ramsay and MasterChef. Yep. So that was a couple things that I did and stuff there. So there's a couple things I did there. So yeah.
So how did you do in the competition itself?
This show I finished 15th on it. We started from a couple thousand to the final 40. We got to LA. We've battled that to get to 20, and from that 20, we went week by week, and I finished 15th.
Very cool. That's awesome. Fantastic. I love it. And I see a couple. I'm just looking at your Instagram feed here, and Chef Manny. I see a couple dishes. This is your. You did one where you say Mother's Day is around the corner. I need a dish to cook. This is a stuffed key lime French toast. Wow.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. And then we've got a. This is the start of the key lime French toast. You're cutting up the bread and stuff like that. Pretty cool. Well, you got an open invitation. Come visit us here in the Cayman Islands. We'd love to see you cook down. We have an annual Taste of Cayman show. Maybe they can have you come on as one of the celebrity chefs.
Oh yeah, definitely. I need to reach out. You know somebody out there I can talk to?
We got you. We'll hook you up.
Oh, thank you.
So man, I'm looking at some of your other cooking. Yeah, this looks good. I see you got some deviled eggs on display here. Hold on. Let me show our viewers one of your IG videos because this looks pretty cool. So it looks like you were having a little deviled egg display. Let me see if I can copy this link real quick. We're foodies around here. We love good food now.
Damien Charles says that Gordon Ramsay really nice. He's a nice guy. Damien, he's really nice. He just does the screaming for TV. He literally just does the screaming on TV. Literally says, "Hey man,
that's his character."
Great meeting you." He like had a full conversation with me. Then when he said action, he's like, "Didn't I tell you?" And he just goes right into it. He's really nice, but he just does it for show.
That's his character. Then that's
his character. But he's really nice in person. Really nice guy. Really fun person.
That's awesome. All right, let me just pull up one of your videos here. And then who are you with here? This is Food Network.
Yes, Food Network starts with season finale. That's Bobby Flay right there. Got beat Bobby Flay stuff there, and then Giada De Laurentiis. One of the things that we made the finals there. I finished second on that show, Food Network Star. The guy who won it, Christian Petroni, the guy on the far left there was winner of it. But it's just one of the things there. It was an amazing experience. By far, one of the greatest people I love working with Bobby Flay. By far, one of the nicest people met, man. It's just a great person, man.
Awesome. All right, let's check out one of the little videos here.
Deviled eggs are a must-have. And I believe in cracking your egg when it says there's nothing an egg can't crack.
Yes.
Eggs are easy, affordable, convenient, and versatile.
Full of protein.
Hosting a backyard, deviled eggs are a perfect solution. You can prepare it ahead of time, refrigerate,
and all the stuff there,
and pipe your eggs before serving them. Classic deviled eggs are a classic, but you know these quinoa, Greek yogurt eggs, or even eggs with guacamole filling tortilla chips. Visit incredibleeggs.org for these recipes and more. Remember, when you make those creative dishes, use hashtag crack it with an egg.
I need to get I need to get a couple extra deviled egg recipes. I do a traditional one that everybody loves. And I
Yeah.
actually do a fried deviled egg, which is
Ooh.
pretty good too. And then that one's kind of peppery and stuff. But I like the one with the tortilla and guacamole. That's got to be pretty nice. Morning caller, welcome to the program.
Are you still on the radio?
No, the radio feed was becoming a little too much to handle today. It kept chipping in and out, so we got to try to figure out what's going on. But you can join us on social media. There's still 400 of us almost on social media, so join us over there.
No, my computer is down. I was hacked.
Oh gosh, can't help you today then. All right, my dear.
All right. Sorry.
Okay, good. Well, what we might do, because I'm actually away on Friday for radio listeners, I might actually just have Chuck replay this show on Friday. That's good content for Friday's show. So Damien having a good laugh. Juliet says, can we get his Instagram name so we can follow him? Yes, it's Chef Manny. So actually, let me just see if I can send you all the link. Hold on one second. But it's Chef Manny FD. And I'll give you a follow from Cayman Mall Road as well. So Chef MANNY FD. Yep, there he is. And I'll put the link in the chat section. Jerry says, I remember watching him. So she actually saw those episodes. Garrett says she can also use a mobile phone to listen. Yeah, only she has a smartphone, which, I mean, as long as she's got YouTube on it or Facebook, she can definitely still tune into the program. So there's always this gap with our seniors or trying to pull them along in terms of the technology. You don't need a computer to watch us online. You can definitely still do it from your phone. You've got your Facebook and you know, your YouTube apps available right there for you. Chef Manny, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yep. She says, thank you. Juliet says, thank you, because I love me some cooking ideas. And I'm already scrolling through Chef Manny's page to see what other recipes he's got here that I might be able to snatch. Nothing like a fun recipe, trying out something new and exciting. I see you got a sandwich here. Bombero sandwich.
Bombero sandwich, yes. It's a Cuban sandwich. It was my fun take on the fireman style of a Cuban sandwich. So
okay. Nice. Looks nice. All right. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that we'll be having you back on the program at some point. And maybe we'll have you on island soon for the next Taste of Cayman.
It's it. Most definitely. We'll love it.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
That was District Chief Mr. Emmanuel. He is from Washington, Emmanuel Washington, aka Manny Washington. He's from Orlando, and he came on the program today, the city of Orlando, to talk to us a little bit about that incident. And like I said, once you get a little bit of the details, you really begin to think this is not a propane situation. I'm just saying. Bombero in Spanish is fireman. Oh, thank you, Damien. Learn a new Spanish word today, because I did not know that, believe it or not. Very, very good. Let's see who else. So Julian says this dude is a celeb. Well done. Thank you, Kevin Watler, for hooking us up with that interview. This other person says, we love him. He has foodie fans in the Cayman Islands. Yeah, buddy. I'll send this on to Jay Ahart. Maybe he's already thinking about people for his next celebrity chefs. And hey, we got one for you. Okay, so somebody says the regiment was there overnight. Okay. All right. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. We still have a half an hour left in the program. So yes, my apologies, but the radio was just too unreliable. Literally every 5 minutes. It is very, very interesting in terms of the incremental stopping. It is, I've been monitoring it and looking at it, and it does it every 5 minutes and 1 second, like clockwork. So that means that we're going to have to contact our ISPs to see what's going on. But literally, that's the time. Every 5 minutes and 1 second, it's dropping out. So I'll send this to Marlon once he's home later on. This is the disconnection time. So he'll be able to show them the log of exactly what's happened. It's been dropping. I think what happens with the live stream, like online, we don't notice it because there's a little bit of like a delay there. So, it drops and it's fine because it seems to be automatically reconnecting, I think is what's happening. But it's enough of a delay or enough of a drop on the radio to actually make a difference. So once it drops that connection, I was having to manually every 5 minutes reconnect it. And Chuck was like, no, this is too much. We're going to just put on Al Jazeera News. So what I'll do, though, is I'll give Chuck the show for Friday since I won't be here. And he's got content for Friday, a little replay. All right. So let's talk about this this incident. It's weird. I've been sitting here trying to figure out what to do with this. But on Sunday night, I started to receive calls that, hey, and messages that, hey, Sandy, what's going on? There's some kind of shooting incident at the station bar. And I have to tell you that I was kind of like, okay, let me keep my ears down to the ground. And I didn't really hear much about it after that. So another person said, here, this is what one person said at 11:19 on Sunday night. They said, hearing of a shooting by Station Bar in Prospect, anything confirmed? And I said, not yet. They said, okay, try listen out. And I said, all right, honey, chill. And then another person messaged me on Monday to say, Monday afternoon, say, you didn't hear about the shooting at Station Bar last night? And I was like, I did hear one person talking about it. And then they said, heard masked men pulled up in a van with heavy artillery and tried to shoot someone. And I was like, what? Say who? Say what? What? And they said, yes, I witnessed that ish. This island is gone. It was real life Call of Duty ish for, what, SHI. And they said, I was sitting in a car and they witnessed it. Yep, they had guns with lasers and stuff on it. And I was like, whoa. And I said, well, how many people are we talking about here? And they said 3 or 4 people. So I said, could this have been police out doing some sort of an exercise that we don't know anything about? They said, highly doubt it. Not the way that they moved. So we reached out to the RSEPs to see if they were willing to comment about this, and they have not responded. Normally when they don't respond, that means that something's going on and they just don't want to tell us. And so their version of they would almost be better off saying, hey, yes, something's going down, but let's not talk about it now. Like we don't want media to get a hold of this, whatever. They don't say anything. So I just assume that, okay, well, if they're not going to say anything, then obviously we're going to be reporting on it because they're not saying anything. So I'm like, well, what's the deal? Like, I don't know. Okay. So I don't know. So that's what it is. If we hear anything more, we will certainly let you know. There is something here. Unreported judgments. Oh yes, there's something here that I need Renee to work on. All right. So let me just have a look at this unreported judgment, May the 11th. So yes, honey chill. Let me just see what this one is. I think this is one that she needs to put in her radar. All right. So I don't have much more that I can tell you other than so I don't have much more that I can tell you other than we're hearing about it. It sounds like it was kind of a serious situation. We'll just keep an eye, and if we hear anything more, if the police ever actually say anything, we will certainly advise all of you as soon as we know. But people actually said they saw it with their own 2 eyes. So I'm like, what? That's kind of crazy. I mean, we've got to get these guns off the streets for sure. Very, very shocking and reckless, if you ask me. All right. Let me just see here. Okay. So, anyone else? Anything else in the woman that killed or tried to kill herself or married or okay? Well, all I can tell you, she's dead for sure. No one's confirming the reason for it as yet, and there's really not much more to report other than she got married recently, and there are rumors afoot that the husband was the reason for her recent demise. That's all I got for you, folks. Sometimes you just don't get more than that. All right. Thank you so much, Chef Manny there, giving you guys the link to follow him. Thank you. Lucky you, Sandy, away again on Friday. Well, I don't know if it has anything to do with luck, but yes, I will not be here Friday and Monday, but I'm going to try to get you guys some good content, including our Cayman Voices series. So thank you so much. Angela says, great guy. I really enjoyed listening. Thank you so much. Internet buffering too slow, still on 3G. For who? Who's buffering? Perla is asking, when am I going to be on the bike again? So Perla, I was trying to, because of the placement of the microphone, everything else, right? I was trying to use like a lapel mic. So I had a cord, like a longer cord. Unfortunately, that wasn't quite as simple as I thought it was going to be to connect. So what I'm having to do is order some wireless mics that are going to allow me to be on the bike and you can still hear me. Although I'm going to be huffing and puffing and whatever, at least you can hear me. Because what was happening is I was on the bike and I was a little bit too far away from the actual microphone. And if that happens, the radio feed might not be picking me up well enough, and that'll automatically disconnect if it thinks that someone's not speaking. So I've got to constantly, like, I can't go but a couple seconds without talking for the purposes of the radio. So next week, Perla, I should have, something in place to address that will allow me to keep on pedaling and keep the show going. So let's get the latest update then on where we are with the investigation. So the police confirmed yesterday that they 3 of the 4 persons who were in the hospital had been released. Damien's asking about the UK investigative team. I don't know if anybody's coming in for this or not. I don't know why they'd have to bring him in all the way from the UK. Like, I'm sure there are people in the US that could help with this, as Chef and Chief Manny. They have the relevant experience. But the police confirmed that, 3 of the 4 persons were out of the hospital. So basically, the only person remaining was the one guy who got the burns, right? So he is still in the hospital. They also said that all of the agencies, police, fire, emergency services, and other partner agencies such as Home Gas remain on the scene of the explosion off-reg, and they were continuing their investigation. So still trying to determine the cause of the incident, with fire and police conducting their investigation. They said at this time, so this was yesterday, the cause of the incident remains unknown. So they, of course, still had the area cordoned off, and we're asking people to be mindful of that and to stay out of the established cordoned off area for their own safety, first and foremost, and for the integrity of the investigation as well. Home Gas released a statement, although I don't think it's really their issue at all, but they're still erring on the side of extreme caution, saying, listen, at Home Gas, we've been serving the Cayman Islands since 1957, that they adhere to the highest safety standards and regulations to ensure the safe storage, distribution, and use of propane. And while we were not directly involved in the incident, we understand the importance of cooperation and transparency to help prevent such events from occurring in the future. So this is according to manager John Corello, and reiterating their commitment to safety, reminding propane users to, ensure that they're taking all safety precautions. Make sure that the propane in your home, that those with propane in their homes or businesses to follow those basic steps to ensure the safe usage of propane. So what we'll do is we'll have John on. He was supposed to come on yesterday, but of course he was at ground zero trying to assist in any way that he can. So we'll find out when John can come on the show, and we'll take it from there. So let me just see what else we've got here. Okay. Yep. So yeah, don't worry, Perla, coming right back. What's the verdict with the Sidoni and the CIA saga? Marshall, they refuse to step down. And the only thing that can be done now is those of us who want to do something about it, you've got to sign up, become members of CIAA, and vote out the board. So we'll find out some more on when the election is coming up and become members. Don't worry, we'll become members. So sometimes you've got to go on the inside to be able to make a change. Perla says, I'm still waiting to see you and OC race down East End and back. Oh, honey child, no. First of all, getting on a bicycle on Cayman roads in this day and age is a suicide mission. Oh, honey child. I used to do it, actually. I used to ride from Newlands. I do it like on Sundays and stuff on weekends. It was such a nice little ride. Good workout. I used to ride from Newlands into town, South Sound, through Georgetown, and come back, do that little loop early Sunday mornings, as early as I could get up to try to beat the sun. But I have to tell you that in this day and age, with the crazy drivers that we have imported plus our own, oh, honey child. Oh yeah. So regarding the thank you. Regarding the family. So I did have someone who messaged who was inquiring about setting up a GoFundMe page for the family. So let me say this, right? Because I think this is important for people to know. Somebody else this week, this must be the week for GoFundMe questions. Someone else, so they said, can I start a GoFundMe page for my friend? It was her house that blew up yesterday. Everything for her and her two daughters is now gone. So what I would say is that GoFundMe has to be linked to a U.S. bank account. So you can't set up a GoFundMe in Cayman and actually get the funds here. That's only for a U.S. bank account. So that's not going to work. But if you're interested, I know that MP Sabrina Turner had posted up a message about this, that she was, trying to spearhead some efforts. So perhaps contact her office. And the children are 6 months old and a 3-year-old, and the mother wears a size medium. So if you have any clothing and stuff for a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old, I think they would have been renting the property there. You can certainly reach out to, I think it's best if an MP's office organizes it as opposed to an individual.
Good evening.
And I know that Sabrina Turner had actually issued an audio statement as well. So I'll play that here for you guys so that you can have it available to you. And then she did set up a statement also. So I'll share all of that with you. Contact the MP's office. I think it's better organized through an office like that as opposed to people trying to hodgepodge put something together, right? So this was the initial release that she sent out from her office, and basically saying that on behalf of the entire Prospect community, their thoughts and prayers were going out to everyone affected by the explosion. For persons who might have been affected or feel that they could benefit from support, because of course we're always thinking about the physical things that people need, which is good. But let us not forget that in situations like this is quite a shock, literally, for people. And so they may find that they're in need of emotional support as well. I mean, I don't know how a 3-year-old processes having lost everything to an explosion. They don't understand, what's going on here. So if you need counseling or emotional support, by all means, please reach out. So to the Department of Counseling Services, 949-8789. You can also email them counseling.services@gov.ky. So, oh yes, that's a good question, whether or not they're boys or girls. Let me see if I can figure that one out. Hold on. 2 daughters. So it's 2 girls, 6-month-old and a 3-year-old. That's a great question, Emma. Thanks very much. So Selvin says, why is home gas a part of the investigative team, even if it was a gas explosion? This is confusing. Well, they have to be, because they're the gas experts. So who else is going to know about their tanks and how to check tanks, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, they kind of have to be part and parcel of it. Obviously, they're not leading it, so they're taking instructions from the fire lead. And this is why the first question that we asked Chief Emmanuel this morning was, what's the procedure? How do you guys conduct an investigation? Well, they've got an SOP, standard operating procedure manual, that they utilize for incidents like this. I hope the fire service here and all the relevant agencies, off-reg and so on, have an SOP for this type of a situation. If they don't, they need to get on it.
Good evening. This is Sabrina Turner, your Minister for Home Affairs. As you may be aware, there was an incident today at approximately 1:30 p.m. at a residential location in Newlands that impacted multiple homes within the area. The police, fire, and other emergency services are on site conducting investigations to determine the cause of the incident. We would like to thank them for their expedient response and management of this incident thus far, and offer them our full support as they continue to work for the safety of the community. We ask that the public stay away from the area to allow emergency personnel to safely conduct their inspections without any additional harm to anyone or themselves. We know that this event has impacted multiple persons and their families, physically and emotionally. If you require support, please call the Department of Counseling Services at 949-8789 or email counseling.services@gov.ky. Thank you for your cooperation.
All right, folks. So that was a statement issued, I believe yesterday or the day of the incident, from Sabrina Turner. So, yeah. Miss Brenda, good morning. Oh my gosh, I've got the hiccup. Sorry. She says, was a bomb squad consulted? Well, like I said, unfortunately, we don't know anything in relation to the investigation here. I mean, I sometimes get bits and pieces from unofficial sources, but the official sources haven't said anything other than investigation is continuing. They've not issued any sort of statements beyond that, I'm afraid. Hopefully they will avail themselves of all of the expertise and all the lines of questioning. But as we said this morning, from what I'm being told from sources, it's a little bit challenging to see how this had anything to do with propane, to be honest. So it's her boyfriend mother's house. Oh, okay. So the boyfriend was the one who had the burns, I guess. What a hot mess. Thank God the children